Well, welcome back to the To Be a Rams Fan channel. Today I've got Mark Burns with me from Rams Up podcast. Mark, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you're coming from, maybe a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, so I run the Rams Up YouTube channel and podcast. Our podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. My partner Ian Martinez has a big part in it these days. We consider ourselves co-hosts, co-owners at this point. And yeah, I grew up in the Los Angeles area, and I'm now joining you from North San Diego County. Been a Rams fan my entire life, as long as I can remember, and doing this podcast and YouTube channel for 5+ years now.
Did you and Ian start it together, or did one of you start it? And how did you
No,
guys come to
it
meet? How did you guys come to
so
meet?
it's a I'll tell you the whole life history here, Reader's Digest version. I decided to start a podcast because I didn't really find any Rams podcasts that I really enjoyed. Apologies to all you content creators out there. I'm not going to name any, but there's just thought there was something missing. So I told my kids, who are both pretty technologically savvy, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and they kind of thought it was pretty amusing that I was going to give it a go. And, I did 5 or 6 podcasts, and I got 7 or 8 downloads, mostly family. And then it grew to 78, and then I broke 100. And I was like, hey, I may be onto something here. And then a gentleman by the name of Tom Courts joined me, and he was a really big positive influence on the podcast, gave me a lot of advice and pointed me in the right direction, and learned a lot of lessons in those early days. I probably wasn't producing really good content, but I was having fun with it. And then Tom brought in a couple of other guys, Paul Walia and then Ian. And we fluctuated from all 4 of us to just 2 of us, 3 of us, did a lot of solo stuff by myself. And then Tom got busy with some other stuff. Paul had to drop off for some personal reasons, some stuff going on, that he just had to drop off, and hopefully he'll come back at some point, but he just can't do it right now. And then so it became me and Ian, and it's been Ian and I for about 2 years, going on 2 years. And what the interesting thing is, and I've had a lot of guest hosts and guys that come on periodically. And of all the people that have been a part of this podcast and YouTube channel, including Tom, Ian, Paul, Scott Richmond joins a lot. Ernesto from Mexico joins. I got Forbode
Really?
from Florida that joins on occasion. I have never met any of them in person, not a single one of them. So
You've never
it's
met Ian in person?
never have met him in
Wow.
person. I've never met Tom or Paul. And Ian's in Los Angeles. I'm in San Diego, and we've tried to make plans here and there to, like, hey, I'll be in LA. Let's have dinner, and it's just never worked out. But feel like we're best friends at this point, because we're staring at each other's mugs for 3 or 4 hours a week at this point. But yeah, never met in person, and that's typical, I think, of the Southern California. Where you're talking about 13 million people in LA. Even LA is so big,
Yeah.
that if I was in LA, it's very possible we still wouldn't have met. But well, I'm going to have to get up there, and there's a really nice restaurant that my wife and I enjoy, and it turns out it's like 2 blocks from his house, I think, where he lives. So got to get it done this summer. Yeah, meet up with him in LA at some point, but hasn't happened yet.
Well, the fact that you guys haven't met brings up something interesting that I was thinking about the other day, in the fact that all of this content specific to the Rams is available out there on the internet. In a way, it's kind of like a tailgate. It's an extension of the game. It's an opportunity to meet and greet other fans, but it isn't as personal. It's got benefits in the sense that it goes almost year round, but it doesn't have that personal contact like the smells of the tailgate and the food and the camaraderie in that way. But that's short term at the ballpark and at the game. But the internet provides another aspect to it where it's kind of year round. Have you ever thought of it that way?
Yeah, and it's also, you bring up a kind of uh, got me thinking about another thing just now is that you don't really get to know everybody personally. You don't know about their significant others. You don't know about their careers, their kids, their family. I mean, sometimes, over the course of, over 2 years, Ian knows I have kids and might even know their names. And he knows my wife is waiting downstairs, tapping her foot, waiting for me to come down for dinner, those types of things. But we really don't know, the stuff that you might learn tailgating. It's like, this is my wife. Hey, glad to meet you. Oh, you see you
Yeah.
drive a see you're driving a Dodge Caravan there. How do you like? Those types of conversations just don't come up. It's just pretty much just football and what are you doing? What are you doing tomorrow? Basically, that type of stuff.
And well, this gives us the opportunity to dive more into, how you come to be a Rams fan and those type of stories, as opposed to the superficial type of conversations you might have at a tailgate. But on that note, you said you grew up in the Southern California area. Was there any generational Ram fans? Were you the first one in the family, or how
I
was your
I
your
I,
family at all?
I come from a very large family, and I was the 10th child. And it
Really?
was a very sports minded family, but it was mostly softball and baseball. And I think that was pretty typical of my neighborhood and my community. Just about everybody played, not everybody, but a lot of people played baseball. And we played pickup baseball. We'd play what we called fast pitch against the garage door for all day long. And we played a little bit of football, in the street, go down to the park and play some tackle football, but I don't know if I know of a single friend that played organized football. But we were Dodgers fans. Everybody was pretty much Dodger
Yeah.
fans. And as we got older, the Rams and the Lakers were kind of like second fiddle to the Dodgers. But my older brothers, I think I had a couple other older brothers that were Ram fans, but it was kind of a secondary thing. But as I got older, I think living through the 70s and all the frustration associated with that, while the Dodgers were always pretty successful, I think I just started to gravitate more towards the Rams because just out of frustration of like, I know the Dodgers are going to be in the World Series, if not this year, the next year or the year after. And the Rams, I was just like desperate for them to get to the Super Bowl and win the big one. But I think when I really became a Ram fan more than a Dodger fan, I think I could point to one thing, and that was when the Raiders came to LA. When the Raiders came to LA, it just really pissed me off to see a lot of people all of a sudden becoming Raider fans. And not necessarily that they were Ram fans or they were maybe not football fans at all, but everybody, there were so many Raider fans, and it really annoyed me. It had a little bit to do with the Rams going to Anaheim, which I didn't originally. I cared, but then afterwards, it's like, why do I care whether they play at the Coliseum or the Anaheim Stadium? Why does it really matter? And I think that's the point where I became a Ram fan first and a Dodger fan second. And as the years have gone by, the gap between those two has become even larger. I pay attention to the Dodgers, whereas back in the early '70s, I could, name their 25-man roster, and I could predict when
Yeah.
Niedenfuhr was going to come in and when Steve Howe was going to get pulled, and all that stuff that goes with loving baseball. Now it's just baseball's kind of an afterthought, and I'm just talking Rams football virtually every day.
Well, you talk about the emotions that came with the Raiders moving to town. Did you get any of that same sense when the NFL allowed San Diego to come to LA too? Did that kind of resurface again, similar?
Well, being in San Diego, I'm surrounded by Padre, and I used to be surrounded by Charger fans. There's still a lot here, and I felt bad. I felt I don't think the Chargers are ever going to. I think my guess is that the Chargers will always be second fiddle to the Rams, and I think there's going to be a big gap between the Rams and Chargers following, at least in LA. But I really just felt bad for the Charger fans because I'm here, and a lot of them, man, it really sucked because the Chargers had really good support here. The Chargers owned San Diego, they really did, and they don't anymore. And plus with the Padres always struggling against the Dodgers, there's that part of it. So I don't really see it so much from an LA perspective. The Rams, sharing LA with the Chargers, I don't think it's really that big of a deal, in my opinion. But from a San Diego perspective, it kind of sucks, really.
Did you said you came from a big family? Any of your extended family also pick up the Rams as a hobby, or are you
Oh,
the only one?
they still do. Only a couple of them really follow them closely, and neither of them are as invested as I am. But most of my family that I'm still close with, even my daughter, who could really doesn't really care. She wants them to win because she knows it because she knows it'll make me happy. Those types of things. But
Well,
yeah,
I kind
I
of
have a. Go ahead.
I am past the infection onto my one of my boys. My other one could care less. They're both in the Navy, but the one that's an air traffic controller on the East Coast, he and I are texting constantly throughout the game, and
Yeah.
so he's fully invested just as much as I am. But so it was good to see at least one of them I can share that content with. What's your first recollections of watching a game? Was it in person or television?
Watching a game, it's funny because, watching games was not as big a deal. It wasn't really a thing. Um, you know, the earliest game I remember, well, I remember going to a Monday night football game at the Coliseum, the Vikings and Rams, I think it was. Don't really remember much about the game. And I remember playing football at the high school, the junior high school, on I don't know if it was a Saturday or a Sunday, the playoff game, the Rams and Cardinals, Jim Hart versus I don't know who the Rams quarterback was, might have been James Harris, and the Rams thrashed them like 35-14. And I remember us playing football and had the game on the radio. But I don't really remember watching a lot of football as a preteen and teenager. And I'm not sure why. I do remember listening to it on the radio a lot, though. And I don't know if it was because I have to ask my older brother, maybe to clarify that for me. Was it because they weren't televised, or was it just because um, my parents weren't letting me jump on the TV on a Sunday afternoon? I don't really remember, to be honest with you.
It's interesting because sometimes you just assume that if you're in market, you have full access to television, but with blackout rules, maybe you didn't have that access.
Yeah,
One of the things that I struggled from was being out of market.
yeah,
I remember that when I was a kid, my dad had always subscribed to the TV Guide, and then when the TV Guide showed up, first thing I did was scramble through Sundays to see if the Rams run, and rarely would they be on. So it was kind of more of just this. I got a Rams lunchbox and I got a Rams jacket, and that made me a Rams fan until you get a little bit older in life. So you can associate with being a Ram because I think everybody, a lot of the kids in school, they got to have a team. And so that was the team that I was, even though, like you say, you weren't necessarily watching it on television all the time. Uh, but boy, I know that I made it a point to take my boys down to the Coliseum right before they played their last game down there and switched over to SoFi. I'm so glad I did. I never got to go to a Coliseum game prior, but
yeah. It's an interest. Well, when the Rams were in St. Louis, I kind of had to deal with that too.
did you go back?
Try, did I go back to St. Louis?
Yeah.
Oh, we went to a game in St. Louis, but
Did
we
you?
did actually. My son and I flew out there for a game, the Isaac Bruce retirement game against the Carolina
Oh, no kidding.
Panthers. But I didn't. What I was trying to say is, while they're in St. Louis, it was very difficult to catch them on TV,
Yeah.
especially for two reasons. For a lot of that period, they were horrible, So they were not on a lot of the typical NFL action on CBS or Fox or whatever. And even when they were good, we were fortunate to be able to see them on TV. So we ended up going to sports bars, that type of thing, and eventually got the direct TV Sunday ticket so we could watch games. But yeah, it was hard to follow. It was definitely hard to follow when they're in St. Louis.
Yeah, there was that era for a period of time where you couldn't catch a game unless you knew an establishment that had the big satellite and
Right.
multiple feeds coming in. You couldn't catch that local. I did go out to St. Louis, and I've only went out one time, but the only game I went out to was happened to be the first game that Ray Lewis played in St. Louis as a Raven, and that was interesting. It was neat to
Yeah,
go back.
I really enjoyed that. A lot of people banged on that stadium, but I thought it was a nice. We had a good time there. It was a nice
Definitely.
environment, and yeah, it was a fun time. We didn't catch them when they were in their necessarily their heyday. What year was that? It must have been around, I think it was around 2010 or so that we went. But
Greatest show. That would have been at the tail end of the greatest show on turf.
yeah, yeah, they had a decent team. I remember James Laurinaitis was on their team. Isaac Bruce had retired, obviously. I think Bolger might have been the quarterback at that point, but that was a good game, good times.
You got a favorite game that you've ever attended in person?
I haven't really been to that many games, so I've actually been to a couple of games at Qualcomm, and the one game was really exciting. And the Rams lost both games, but the second one we went to, trying to remember, it was I think it might have been Kenny Britt. Uh, almost had a go ahead touchdown toe tapper in the end zone, or he just missed it, or something happened. But the Rams ended up losing, but it was a really exciting game.
Qualcomm. Is that what they were going by?
That's what they used to. It doesn't technically
Candlestick.
exist anymore. No, San Diego, the
Oh, San
Chargers.
Diego. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it was Qualcomm, and then they sort of kind of destroyed it. Now it's the site of Snapdragon. Um, it's where it was the Chargers home field, but now it's Snapdragon and the home for a lot of soccer games. San Diego State,
Yeah.
I believe, plays there now. Never been to the new Snapdragon, but it's in the same site as what they used to call Qualcomm.
You've been able to catch a few at SoFi?
No, I have not. Embarrassing to say, but I have. I tell people this all the time. We went on a tour of SoFi, and it was so awesome. It
Yeah.
was like $35 or $40 on a Wednesday afternoon, I think, in the summer. There was like eight of us. We went, and it was incredible. We had such a good time. We basically spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours on the field after the tour, kicking field goals.
Oh, no kidding.
My son and I were throwing touchdown passes to each other in the end zone, taking selfies at the 50-yard line. It was a good time.
The inner geek in me is going to come out when I say this part. Um, my career started off in civil construction, civil engineering type work, and when they built the stadium, Kiewit was the earthwork contractor. They set up like 12 cameras around, live cameras 24/7, and I was constantly watching those cameras and watching the earthwork and all the site work developing. So I kind of
Yeah, I remember that too. That was kind of fun to follow.
yeah, they had a huge scraper spread, and so I was always interested in scraper work, and so that was kind of so the first time I got to go down to SoFi, I was kind of interested in looking at what I watched on a regular basis being built, but also ca- taking in my first. We've only been to one. I've only been to one SoFi game. Um, been to any up in San Francisco?
No, no, I have not. The games I've been to are the Coliseum. Never went to a game at Anaheim, St. Louis, and the San Diego Stadium. I think that's it.
I've kind of made a commitment to myself. I'm going to try to catch one road game a year. So last year we went to Baltimore, and the year before that I went to New England. And New England fans were actually very friendly. The nastiest fans I've experienced are in Seattle.
Oh, really? I was going to say you're
Uh,
not that far. That surprises me.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just I don't know what it is, but the nastiest experiences I've had, and I've been to several Seattle games up here, kind of like you going to San Diego because that's in your backyard. Seattle's in my
Yeah.
backyard, but
Yeah, I think our experience with the Charger fans was not bad. To me, it's maybe it doesn't matter in places like Philadelphia and Seattle, but I've gone to games with my son, and I try to emphasize, if we win, if we get ahead, or just be show class. Don't draw attention to yourself.
yeah,
Don't over celebrate. This is their home stadium. We're a guest
yeah.
here, and I know you're free to do whatever you want. That doesn't mean you should. Just kind of show some class, and I think we did that and never had any issues.
I think that it helps if you reach out before the game starts and introduce yourself to some of the locals around you,
You know,
as opposed to being a stranger. I know in Boston, was my wife's first game, first time she'd ever been to an NFL game, and she's uncomfortable with conflict. So I went out of my way to just be friendly to the guys in front, so it wasn't nothing adversarial developed.
right?
And they were the friendliest group of guys in front of us after I asked them, hey, you guys season ticket holders, started with that type of conversation. As long as you're being friendly, I think everybody appreciates the game and they'll reciprocate.
Yeah, the only bad experience I can remember, just reminded me, was my son had somehow become a Detroit Red Wings fan, and we went to a Kings game, and he wore a Red Wings jersey, and we had some issues with some people that were just, and he was like 8, 9 years old,
Oh, that's
and
unfortunate.
yeah, and I was like, I was livid. I just couldn't believe how this one couple of guys were behaving. But I dealt with it in a tactful way and brought an end to it. I think I won't get into the details, but my son went to New Orleans last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year. And he said the fans were so cool. They were
Yeah.
wearing Rams jerseys, and people would come up to him, "Welcome to New Orleans, man. Glad to have you." Just went out of their way to be really nice. So that was kind of cool to hear.
Yeah. He's traveled to a few games himself.
I think he actually went to he went to a 49er game last year
Good for him.
and he met his buddy as a 49er fan, and they flew up separately and met and went to the game. And he sent me a picture. It was pretty funny. He was on some type of mass transit bus or something in his like an Aaron Donald jersey with like a bus full of 49er fans. It was pretty funny. But his I don't have a lot of experience I've never been to a 49er game, but he said his feeling about the 49er fans were like they weren't, it was almost just like they're going to an event, and it's not like they're as invested or as we are. That was the vibe he felt because the Rams won that game, and he said the fans were just kind of like, yeah, whatever. It wasn't like they were. Just maybe it's just one data point, and maybe it was the people that were around him. It wasn't like it was just a spectacle. They go to a game, they wear their 49er jerseys, and they yell their what is it that saying they all yell? It's bang bang 49ers, whatever it is they say, and then they go home, win or lose. They don't really care that much. That's the vibe he felt, which really surprised me.
Does he live by you? Do you guys get to take to
Yeah.
watch games on TV together?
No, we do not watch games together. We cannot watch games together. He is a big fan, and interestingly, when he was 9 years old, I remember Kurt Warner had taken over as quarterback for the Rams. They had won a
Yeah.
couple of games, 1999, and he started kind of sitting next to me watching. He's like, "Hey, Dad, your team's pretty good." And he was introduced to the Rams in 1999. Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, and I had to explain to him Matt, it's not always going to be like this, just so you know. Uh, but he's a totally into it. But we don't watch games together for two reasons. One, it's not really practical for one of us to drive. We're about 20 minutes apart, and his style of watching a game, he's too loud and intense and gets really wrapped up in it. I'm a very quiet. Uh, I just like to be in my zone. I close the door and everybody leave me the heck alone. I have watched games with him a couple times, and it's fine, but we don't go out of our way to watch games together because there's no added value, to be honest with you. It's like, uh,
I think I'm more like you. I like the solitude of watching a game by myself, with the exception of I will keep a text thread going with the kid,
yeah,
um, to have a
and,
little
and
bit
that's
of.
probably why I haven't been to as many games. I I'm sure I enjoy the experience, but I just don't know if it's the return on investment, the cost of the ticket, dealing with
Yeah.
the traffic, dealing with the crowds. The viewing experience in my little room over here is probably pretty comparable in a lot of ways to
Well,
watching a game
you
live.
really do. You really the best seat in the house is really at your home.
Right?
Anymore. The only games I'm really interested in going to is um, road games, just to experience other cities, not just to watch the
Yeah.
Rams game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And
Yeah, we
so,
like to do that. Yeah, just to drop in on Chicago for a weekend. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
yeah, and given our boys are active duty, we're trying to find games in the vicinity of where they're stationed as an excuse to go out and time it to see the kids and also experience a city we haven't been to. I don't think I'll go back to Boston. I don't think I'll go back to Baltimore. But just to be able to kill two birds with one stone and it's just like you said, it's an experience. Uh,
Yeah, we're kind of the same when we go to we'll visit. We've done a lot of that over the last 15 years. Go to Boulder for 4 days, go to Vancouver for 4 days, go to Portland for 4 days, and people always say like, "Hey man, we'll see you next time." I was like, probably won't be a next time,
yeah,
because it's on to another city.
been there, done that.
You're right. You're right. There's too much to see. There's a few places we'd like to go back. Hawaii, we've been several times, and we really Vancouver might have been our favorite city. We did like Portland, though. I think Portland gets a bad rap because you get outside the real urban part of Portland. It's beautiful, and it's just a lot of
Yeah,
great hiking, a lot of things to do.
yeah. I'm fortunate to live, short jaunt to the mountains, short jaunt to the beach, and all of
Yeah.
that. But unfortunately, the fact that we're so dislocated from LA is almost might be a blessing in disguise because, like I said, you really do have the best seat at home anymore
Yeah.
with the NFL ticket. Which don't even get me started on NFL ticket. NFL ticket used to be, you could watch all the games. Now they keep breaking it up into packages. Now they're saying that uh, the uh, the international games might be broken up into a different international package that you don't get with
Oh
NFL
wow.
ticket. Had you not
Yeah.
heard that?
No, I have not, and we've been pretty lucky here because um, the Rams have been so good that their games are almost always televised here,
Yeah.
and I think there have been two occasions where they haven't. This past, I didn't have the ticket. I haven't had the Sunday ticket for at least 2 years because I don't. I'm not really interested in watching football all day long.
Yeah.
I have. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that husband, that dad that just my wife is gracious enough to give me the 3 hours to watch the Rams and usually a couple of hours to record afterwards and before. So I don't need to be watching a bunch of other games. But I think there have been two games that were not televised, and those are the days I watch with my son because he typically has Sunday ticket, and I'll just drive to his place and watch it with him.
Well, and that's one of the things that makes the content that I'm comfortable with uh, interesting to me is it's Rams specific because I don't have the time to watch all of the other games
Yeah.
and get the nuances of the X's and O's of how this guy runs a route better than that guy runs a route and understand, how secondaries cover for this team and that team. I don't have the time, and it would be like you said, I'd be doing my wife a disservice if I was that married to football in general. So I just keep it to the Rams.
Yeah, and I think it's you got to find your niche. If there's something you enjoy watching, enjoy reading, enjoy learning about, that's the content you create.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people doing that, the X's and O's. Um, and so, do we need one more person, telling you that, Jawan Jennings is a great, X receiver and runs all branches of the route well. That content's out there. Just try to find something unique and that you enjoy talking about. That's my approach, anyways. I've been creating content now for. I'll just be sitting on the train on the way to work and think, oh, you know what? I could talk 10 minutes about this, and that's what I do.
And that's great. The one of the beauties of this opportunity is to dive into a niche and specialize in what you want to do. Uh,
You know,
how long have how long do you think it was once you launched your podcast before you felt like actually got people out there listening?
It was probably a few months. And I, just for your awareness, my path was, I don't know if this is typical, but what I used to do was just strictly podcast. I did very little YouTube. I did a lot of recording I use Audacity to record audio only. Then I started pushing some of it to YouTube as audio only because they were trying to push that concept on YouTube. I don't think it really ever gained traction. And then
Yeah.
I think when Ian joined, he was a big proponent of YouTube, and so I kind of flipped it about a year ago, maybe longer, where I record video and then I outsource the video for the podcast. So I kind of flipped it, but kind of went off on a tangent there. But I think the podcast, I think it was probably 4 or 5 months where I realized that I think I actually saved the data. I could tell you if I looked at my little spreadsheet here. 4 or 5 months that I think and I think I got really good advice from my son-in-law, by the way. It's probably worth mentioning. When I first started, I was trying to be like cool and hip and just try to, I don't know what vibe I was trying to go for, but it wasn't me. And he told me, he said, "Man, that's not sustainable. You just got to be yourself.
Yeah,
And if it
that's
works, it
natural.
works. Yeah, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then don't bother." And it was really good advice, and I started doing that. And I was very probably, I did a lot of re-recording. It's like I'd record a 5 minute thing, and then I'd record it again. I recorded a third time, and I've gotten better at it recording it the first time, and I've also just become less of a perfectionist too. Just
Yeah,
if you screw something up, um, so be
guts,
it.
guts, feathers, and all.
Yeah, right,
You
right.
know they.
And I'm pretty good at I have some pretty good screw ups over the years too of getting players' names wrong and just getting stuff completely wrong. But most people figure it out. What are you going to do?
They've got that old phrase that somebody has a face for radio. I've always felt like I've got a voice for print. I don't have that
Right.
radio voice, but I just got to get over it and have fun and not worry about it. I just want to hear stories of how other people came to be Rams fans. And I find that interesting, and I enjoy that.
You should do road trip reports when you go to these other cities. Do a little,
I thought
with
I
this.
thought about that. Yeah,
Yeah, this is where we had dinner, and we had some time to kill, so we went over. I used to do that a little bit just for fun. Created some videos of like when we'd go to Orange County for the day, how we got there, where we had lunch, and we shopped over here, and we had a cup of coffee over here. You could do that on your little, do a stadium report, the whole bit. Yeah,
You know,
I'd watch that.
I thought about that as well by accident. Same exact thing you just mentioned, because when we went to Boston, my wife and I made reservations for an Italian restaurant that we wanted to explore, and we we went and sat down at this restaurant, and after we'd been there for like 10 minutes, we realized this isn't the place where we made the reservation. and and it was
Uh,
actually the best meal, one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm feeding my wife. You got to try this. So, if I thought about that afterwards, going, I should probably recommend this place to any Ram fans that ever come out to Boston, because it is literally the best meal I've ever had in my life.
that's what you call a happy accident, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time. I will definitely be able to make sure that I'm keeping Rams up. I love your content. Maybe get a hold of Ian and ask some of the same questions again of Ian. But keep doing what you do. I really appreciate it. You're on my liked channel. I don't have that many like you. I'm limited on what I spend my time on, but I always look for the Rams Up
Yeah.
channel.
Hey, and if this finds its way on, we'll place this on our channel. So can you share what's the name of your YouTube channel? How can they find you?
To be a Rams fan
So
on
it's
YouTube,
the number two.
the letter B,
And
a Rams fan, to be
oh,
a Rams fan
okay, got it.
on
The
YouTube. So,
that'll help the guys on the podcast that don't see your screen here right now. Okay, man. Hey, this was fun. Good talking to
yeah.
you. Let's do it again sometime.
Okay, thanks for having me. Hey, Mark Burns with Rams Up channel. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and look forward to maybe talking to you again some other time.
Okay, man. Thanks.
Okay.